From WCI3 Plus, with your host, Kevin Lighty, this is Behind the Forecast.
What's up, everybody? I'm WCI3 Chief Meteorologist Kevin Lighty. Look at it right there. It says it right there. And you can follow along with me on many of these different platforms there. Encourage you to give me a like or a follow or all of those things there, so you can always stay up to date with the very latest. Again, my name is Kevin Lighty. I am the Chief Meteorologist here at WCIA, and each week we bring you Behind the Forecast. We do it kind of in two parts. There is an interview segment, and then we start things off with some viral weather videos, which we will get to here in just a second. But what we want to do is tell you about who the interview is going to be with. The past few weeks, we've talked to meteorologist Jacob Dickey. Now, we head to our weekend meteorologist, Seth Bohnhoff, and talk to him. That's coming up a little bit later in the show. Get a little bit more in-depth, learn more about him, his family, kind of how he got here and whatnot, education, and how he's always had ties here to WCIA. That is coming up a little bit later on in the show. But we kick things off first with our viral weather videos of the week. And we start out with number 5. And number 5 here, check out the beautiful sunset down in Florida. Now, I got to be honest with you, I had to look it up because I never heard of it. It is Ormond by the Sea, Florida. It's an actual unincorporated community that is down there, Ormond by the Sea. But boy, I would like to be by the sea looking at that sunset there. Greg Diesel there with this drone video that he caught of that beautiful sunset down in Florida. Oh, to be at the beach right now, right? To be at the beach. All right, we're going to go to video number 4. Again, we count them down from 5 to number 1. And how about this? Australia funnel cloud. Believe it or not, Australia does get tornadoes. And so here is, they're saying kind of rare for them to have this here, maybe this time of the year. But there it is, funnel cloud there in Australia. As you can see that, maybe even a tornado. It's always hard to tell. That's the thing with tornadoes. You know, is that down all the way? You got to look close. And I would probably consider that a tornado because it does look like there's a little bit of a debris, you know, a little bit of dust being kicked up there. You don't always have to have the funnel all the way down to the ground, but it does look like there might be a tornado there with that. So little view there. So going from a video that maybe can be a little bit misleading, is that a tornado, is that not, to this absolutely is a tornado. And this is back home here in the States as we take you to Utah and Montezuma Creek, Utah. You can see right there, clear tornadoes that they actually had down that way, where they've had some weather. The Navajo Police Department reported tornado touchdown near Montezuma Creek in Utah. I mean, just look at some of these videos. Now, fortunately, it does look like, you know, some of this was out there in a little bit more rural area. Of course, Utah, maybe not as populated, but wow, those are some scary pictures. Look at that funnel. That is clear and convincing evidence of a tornado, that's for sure. So some pictures there coming to us from the Utah area. So that is our viral video number 3. All right, let's go to this one. Boy, we're keeping it in Utah. This is scary. How about this? Look at this rescue taking place, okay? So basically, we're in Utah here, Green River, Utah. They received a call stating the person stuck in a wash with a flash flood located on Airport Road, south side of Green River, Utah. Deputies immediately dispatched to head out there. And boy, trying to get, you know, those water rescues, the roping, just how powerful that water can be. And boy, just a rough situation down there, it looks like. But they were able to rescue the people. A very scared person could have been swept away at any second. So definitely very, very fortunate. Look at that. Man, pulling them in there. So congrats and bravo to the department down there. All right, video number 1. And I find this kind of interesting. Okay, it's a corn maze. We all know corn mazes. We're here in central Illinois. This is a whale of a tail. That's what they're calling it there. Their corn maze in Maine, where it's actually been named, and I can't believe it, the #1 corn maze in America. Wow. Illinois, I know we can do better than that. And I know this corn maze is going to be popping up here before too long across parts of central Illinois, but we'll show you some better ones. Maybe we'll get some of the ones here in central Illinois coming up here when those arrive. Those are your viral weather videos of the week from 5 to #1. Fall is just around the corner, right, folks? Okay, also just around the corner, when we come back after the break, we are going to talk to meteorologist Seth Bohnhoff and get to know him a little bit weather as we continue to feature members from the WCI3 weather team. All right, guys, stick around. We'll be right back after this. All right, welcome back to Behind the Forecast. I'm WCA3 Chief Meteorologist Kevin Lighty, and as we've been doing the past few weeks, getting to know our weather team just a little bit better. Last week, the past couple of weeks, we talked to meteorologist Jacob Dickey, and we are back here this week, and we are switching gears, and we say hello to meteorologist Seth Bohnhoff. Ladies and gentlemen, Seth is in the house. Hold on here. Hold on. There's applause. There's applause. We have applause.
Wow. Okay, perfect. Now I feel welcome.
Yeah, there's applause. Applause here.
Please, everyone.
We spare no expenses here at Behind the Forecast, indeed. All right, Seth. So let's kind of start at the beginning with you and whatnot. First off, how long you been here with us now?
Been here since June 1st of 2022, so 3 years and some odd months, 3 months.
A little over 3 years. But you actually technically got your start here before that. Talk
Right.
about kind of like how all of that kind of began early in your, I don't say career,
Right.
but educationally, I guess, for folks that maybe are not familiar.
Right. So my first couple of years here at the U of I transferred over from Lakeland College. So I transferred up here for schooling in fall of 21. And during that junior year of college, first year of U of I was working with a few people in the department as far as, finding some internships. They knew I wanted to do meteorology. They knew I had to focus in broadcast and stuff like that. So they're like, hey, funny enough, we have a station right across the road that, we've had some interns there before. So I reached out to, I think it was you, and I think it was Nancy, was it at the time, who was in charge of all the intern stuff.
Yep.
And yeah, we got the internship rolling there, and the internship started there in early June. And of course, Jack Gerfin was my mentor there at the time. So from June,
Shout out Jack.
Yeah,
shout out Jack Gerfin.
for sure. But yeah, that started there in early June, and that internship lasted until very last week of July. I want to say it was like July 27th, 28th or something. But a week up until that point, we had found out that Jack was heading out after, 7 years here at the station. He was here for a good long time, but he was here
a good time.
He was heading out there to Oklahoma City to do bigger and better things, be out there and be a chief meteorologist. So then all of a sudden it was just you and Jacob. And I've learned over time that having 3 people, it's hard enough to do stuff too. I could imagine the fear that you guys had.
There was, but you as, an intern with us, our thing is, when we do an internship with someone, we are hoping to, mold them and guide them and, give them the resources and things to get them a job somewhere. Not always do we have an opening
Correct.
here, and things kind of worked out that way, though, for you.
Yeah, it worked out very well because Jack took off very beginning of August, if I remember correctly, but we got me doing some 9 o'clock shows, I think, on a Thursday or a Friday to kind of get me into it there that last week of July, and that was kind of the unofficial start. Then I had Jack supervise one weekend shift of mine, and then Jacob did the following weekend shift, and then when Jack was out, the training wheels were kicked off, and I was pretty much on my own there. And of course, I talked about getting an internship the summer between junior and senior year. So people doing the math at home, it's like, wait a minute, you still have another year of college. I did have another year of college. So I was doing weekends and school at the same time. I had school, I had classes 5 days a week there. Of course, some days were easier than others, but I would help out on Friday nights here at the station once classes were all over with. And then I'd do Saturday, I'd do Sunday, and then right back to school. So that was that was one of the more challenging years I've had, but it was also one of the more rewarding ones too, because I had the job that I wanted. Not only that, but I was farther up the ladder than I could have ever imagined for a first job. And I've learned with time in the industry that I got pretty darn lucky to not only get my foot in the door before I was done with school, but get my foot in the door at the absolute closest station, except maybe Terre Haute from Effingham, but still, it was a deal I couldn't pass up. It was crazy, the timing, how it worked.
Yeah, and it really did. And you have excelled and gone even beyond what you probably should be in your first few years of doing this.
Very true.
Let's go back a little bit. You just kind of mentioned a little bit there about Effingham, and talk about your kind of roots of where you grew up and your kind of attachment to this station as a youngin'.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm from Effingham County. I'm from the town of Dietrich, which is less than 1,000 people. Therefore, when I'm anywhere outside of Effingham County, people ask me where I'm from. I'm like, oh, I'm from Effingham. Just that's what we all do, that we're not living right there in Effingham. But yeah, I graduated there from Dietrich High School in 2019. And yeah, kind of growing up in the area. We were kind of on the border of a lot of different places. We were too far away for St. Louis, but we're kind of on the edge of Terre Haute, of the Champaign, Decatur, Springfield area. So we kind of got a little bit of both, just kind of depending sometimes on the day. We watched a lot of Jesse Walker, also watched a lot of WCIA back in the day too. So kind of had our options growing up, but it was kind of cool to watch a lot of that stuff. Watched a ton of Weather Channel back in what I would call, well, I can't say for sure that it was the Weather Channel's prime because it's been around for a while, but it felt like from mid to late 2000s, the shows were great. The local on the 8s had the nice, cool old icons. You had storm stories. It was awesome. It was great growing up in that time, and that was easy inspiration. And speaking of which, another kind of origin story here. A lot of meteorologists have a pretty unique story as to how they got down their path, because it's not something that everyone kind of thinks to do at some point in time. Around 2006, I think it was, we had a tornado actually hit one of our neighbors' houses less than about a mile north of us. So seeing that happen, it's like, oh my goodness. At the time, I would have been at oldest 6 years old, and I would have been like, oh, I don't want that to ever happen to my house. I'm terrified of storms now. But then over the years, you try to learn more about the stuff that you fear, so you're not afraid of them. And then by doing that over the years, it's like, you know what? Now that I kind of know what's going on here, this would be kind of fun to do. So that's kind of part of what brought me up into that as well. And then, after high school, I went straight to Lakeland College to get some of that discount knowledge, as they say. And what is that country song Rodney Atkins sings? I can't remember what song it is, but got to junior college to get that discount knowledge.
Nothing wrong with that, man.
It was a good start. Got a lot of the
smaller classes.
Right. Got a lot of the tough classes that it helps having smaller classes out of the way too. Your calculus, your some of your physics, some of your chemistry stuff. To any young aspiring meteorologists out there, study your math. You're gonna need to know it for a couple of years. Doing the job right now, don't do a whole lot of calculus on a daily basis, believe it or not.
No calculus?
Unless I've been doing it wrong, Kevin. I don't know.
No calculus?
No calculus here.
No
calculus? It was good to get that stuff.
You mean
nobody likes calculus. Even the teachers, I swear, sometimes didn't like it.
Crickets. Agreed.
Yeah, but it was good to get that stuff out of the way, so that way I had as much of the heavy lifting done by the time I got to U of I as possible. But it didn't get easier from there. The education, I actually had to hit my core meteorology classes right here at U of I. So 2 years down in college, I still didn't really know a whole lot about the forecasting side of things, about much of the science behind it. So it was kind of a lot of just a lot of wants there in those last 2 years. But yeah, that's kind of the growing up story, the fear of storms turning into finding out more about it turns into a passion turns into finding your job, finding the job ended up with me right here. So that's kind of how things came to be.
So there is kind of the background there. We are with meteorologist Seth Bohnhoff, who does our weekends and also kind of is the jack of all trades. You might see him on a Monday, you might see him on a Tuesday morning, so in our business here and with this, there always has to be kind of that real flexible person, and just call him Gumby over here. Yeah. I mean, he does a lot. Let's talk a little bit about another part of your kind of education and something kind of cool that you got to do while at the U of I, and that's some storm chasing stuff. And you did some of that out there. On one of our earlier shows, actually it was one of our first shows, Jeff Frame is who we talked to, and he talked about storm chasing, brought you up. Talk a little bit about your time and being able to go out outside while still in college. And right before you took the job here, going out chasing. Talk a little bit about some of those chasing expeditions.
Yeah, that's some of the coolest stuff because, it kind of depends where you grow up sometimes, some of the resources that you have and, the degree of passion as you grow older. For example, I'm sure Jacob chased a bunch of times before he jumped into any sort of actual job. I didn't, I was fascinated by it. It was more of a hobby growing up, but I didn't actually go out and storm chase because I didn't really know what I was doing. I couldn't have mom or dad do it because, what are we going out and looking at? They don't know what they're looking at either. So by taking that class, you're actually out there in the field and there's no paperwork. There's no, problems to solve. There's no assignments. You get up in the morning, we go from hotel room to hotel room for about 2 weeks, finding where the severe weather is. And we meet up and we just kind of as a unit with Jeff Frame, our, lead professor, him kind of leading the way. But we kind of figure out, all right, what's the goal today? Where do we think stuff's going to happen? Let's look at all the models together. Let's kind of dissect things together. So by picking Jeff's brain and the brain of all of us there on the field course, we're able to kind of pinpoint some, probable locations, and we're sometimes limited by where we started the day. For example, if there was big, bad, severe weather in Texas on a Monday, and then on Tuesday, the bad stuff was going to be up in North Dakota, well, that's impossible for us to do. We got to be able to get there and not be, sailing into the last second to see stuff. So had to consider a lot of things that sometimes you have to consider when chasing is just kind of your limitations of where you're at, but we'd pinpoint a spot, we'd go for it, we kind of set up there. And it also, I think the best thing that class did as far as teaching me stuff that I can apply right now is how to now cast, because you can look at all the models, known to man, everything put together, and they can all say there's going to be a storm right here at 2 p.m. That doesn't always mean it's going to happen. Believe it or not, these models, they sometimes lie to us, but they give you the general idea. So you see how things are trending. Even though your target doesn't look too bad, it looks like stuff's going up there. Maybe there's something south of there that's already stronger. And you think to yourself, well, if there's a south wind coming here, that south storm's going to eat up this other one, and we're not going to have much to look at here. So you kind of are able to do that. See, tiny little cumulus clouds go from, nothing to a tiny little cloud to all of a sudden these towering clouds that you're then able to see basically storms from beginning to end. So that's super neat just because I hadn't gotten that opportunity before, especially seeing out where we were. We didn't travel a whole lot of distance total on the trip. We were between Texas, Oklahoma, and New Mexico, I think, 12 out of the 13 days. So we didn't have to move very much. And those Texas and Oklahoma and New Mexico supercells are not Illinois supercells. They're much bigger, they're much stronger, and they're much easier to look at because you got these open plains and stuff. But that's another thing Jeff did a really good job of teaching us, is that terrain is a limiting factor sometimes. And out there in those, southern plains, there's not always a perfectly straight road that takes you from one place to the other. Sometimes there's these big square road networks and the tornado's right there in the middle. And you're like, okay, how do we get there? How do we get the best vantage point, all the hilly terrain and stuff? So a lot of stuff went into that. And over time, I was able to finally look at a radar screen and then see exactly what that looked like in real life and finally match them up. So that way I know better what I'm looking at when I'm out there in the field, and I know better what I'm looking at when I'm in a studio looking at a radar. I can kind of envision things and picture them a little better together because you can read as much as you want in textbooks about stuff, but as in anything in life, it's not officially burned into your brain until you actually go out there and physically do it. So that class was awesome. My confidence level in the storm tracker went from about here to way up here after that class. So it's made me a lot more self-sufficient out there because for the longest time, I'm like, oh, I hope Jacob or Kevin comes with me. Now I'm just like, I don't need those guys.
Now you're good, but
Right.
but you nailed it there. I just can't imagine some people that have never been out in the field to see storms and all they've learned about is what is in a textbook or what they've seen on TV or something like that. Being able to marry those two and match those two, I think is so crucial as a meteorologist. And I think that's what makes our team so unique and versatile is that we've all chased, we've all been out there, we've all seen it. And it's not just in a studio all the time. Let's talk a little bit about, let's see here. Let's do some other questions that have to do with outside of work.
Sure.
And maybe a little bit about your family and whatnot. Let's talk about the fam because when you came to us, you were solo Seth.
I was,
as I would call it, and very much so not the case anymore.
No, very much not the case anymore. In fact, there's three of us at the house now. I like to think that before I started this job, I was a single boy, and now I'm a married man with a family now. But yeah, my now wife, we got married on April 27th, 2024. So we've been married a little over a year, getting up close to a year and a half here in about a month or so. But yeah, we didn't go to the same school from the same area, though. She was from Teutopolis, I was from Diedrich, so big rivalry there. At least it used to be back in the day, but we've put all grudges aside with that. We met actually back in 2020, but we didn't get engaged until summer of 23. We had a very quick engagement there, but it was the right pace for us. But that was she's been a big part of my life too, because she's been there from the COVID days of doing college online. That was a challenging time. And then here at U of I, even though I was up here doing classes even before I started working here, I was living up here all the time and coming back on the weekends. So we really didn't get to see each other that much during those years, because she just went to 2 years of college and then decided she was good. So she was working full time while I was up here basically doing school throughout the week. So we didn't get to see each other a whole lot there for a while, which was tough on both of us. But through time, we managed to make the most out of it on the weekends. Again, I would go home and stuff like that. Then it got really challenging when I picked up weekends working up here, but we again made it work by her coming up here on the weekends and stuff. So she's been a big supporter of mine. She's a big reason why I was able to cross the finish line with a lot of this stuff, even going back to the junior college days. Because like I said, calculus, differential equations, that's enough to just make you want to pull your own hair out. And someone else sitting there not really understanding fully the difficulty of those classes, she had to be as patient as possible. So that was super helpful there. And then, yeah, we got engaged summer of 23, got married back home in April of 24. And we did not waste a whole lot of time in adding to our family. Roughly 10 months later, we had ourselves our first kid. Madeline is her name, Madeline Bernice, middle name after one of Callie's grandmas. So she's been in our lives a little over 8 months now. She had her 8-month birthday on September the 16th, which if you do the math, her birthday is January 16th. So hard to believe that it's already been that long. I can recall it like it was yesterday, the day she was born. It was a kind of a warm January day. I want to say it was like 45-something degrees. And, of course, I remember what the weather was like that day. There was snow on the ground. It was melting a little bit. And then it got super cold like 2 or 3 days later. But that's when she entered our lives, and we got some time to spend together there for the first several weeks, as we were able to kind of be mom and dad at home there for a while. And she's changed my life a bunch. I will say that. Looking back on things, I'm like, what did I do in my free time before I had a child? I'm just like,
I'm with you.
I have got my hands full 24/7. I'm like, what did I do in that time? Was I kind of just
was I just
time?
worthless?
Yeah,
was I
like,
waste of space?
Was I just playing Xbox that whole time? Was I just
yes?
eating?
The correct answer is yes. You were playing an Xbox.
So she's added a lot more value to my life. I kind of, as any parent does, take a lot of pride in who she is now. And now that she's kind of getting a little bit of a personality, getting a couple of teeth on the bottom row too, it's cool to watch her grow up. And it sometimes doesn't feel real because I'm still 24 years old, and I'm just like, feel like I'm not old enough for this yet, but gotten a lot more confidence with that over the months too.
Figuring it out as you go, it's kind of interesting. We took two very different paths in the fatherhood.
Right.
I did it a lot later.
Right.
I was 37, and but like we've kind of both gone through a lot of the same things over the last couple of years and whatnot. Favorite thing about being a dad?
Favorite thing about being a dad just has to be making her laugh, just because it's so cool to know that you're the reason that she's here in the first place, and the fact that she relies on you so much. When we take naps together, she'll lay on me, and she just, super comfortable, way more comfortable than, laying down in a bed. So it's just cool to see someone giving back just as much love as you're giving them. Not that my parents love me too, but it's different when you're on this side of it. It's super cool. And I will say, I was kind of hoping it was a girl at first. Something about being a girl dad, I don't know. I just feel like I'm more of a, protector in this case. Not that, 8-month-old boy can protect himself, but you know what I mean? It's a little bit of a different dynamic there, and it's fun. It's really neat.
That's interesting there, because I was kind of the opposite. Like, oh, I hope it's a boy.
right. And that's usually how it is. I'm not sure why it was this way.
But no, that's great. I see the girl dad stuff all the time, and so yeah, very good. Okay, so believe it or not, we have kind of blown through our questions here for this show.
Good.
It goes by fast.
It does. It does go by just like raising a kid.
It just that's what, and I'll tell you, you'll hear that a ton. Is don't blink. Right. They grow up fast. But what we're going to do, so we've talked a lot about kind of Seth's background, kind of his upbringing, and kind of how he got to where he is. We'll go into some other topics and whatnot, and he's going to come back and join us again next week.
Let's do it.
For a part 2 here as we get to know our WCA3 weather team just a little bit long, long form. They get to watch us for 3 minutes on TV. Right. A lot of times we're talking about the weather, but this really kind of allows people to kind of get to know us a little bit more. So, Seth Bohnhoff, thank you for joining us here. Again. Oh, hold on here. I'm still trying to figure out the effects. There we go.
You guys, thank you.
Effects. It's great. Kind of love it. That's Seth Bohnhoff right there, ladies and gentlemen. That is going to wrap things up here for Behind the Forecast here today. Thanks so much for joining us, and we will see you guys again next week.